Hello, Robs. We're back with The World of Keane by Walter Keane. 32 paintings and drawings, this being the autobiography of Walter Keane. We're nearing the end. Not quickly enough, but we're nearing the end. Section 5. In great wonder, my mind, still floating in a state of bewilderment, called out, why would their scriptwriters fabricate such a barefaced lie? What thread drew it to his mind? What did he hope to gain planting such a seed as his kill scenario? He thought he had stunned he thought he had stunned my mind. Instead, he opened my senses, quietly thinking, my eyes closed, reaching back in time. In a moment, a sparkling, brilliant light surfaced on my memory screen. Of course they infringed on my copyrights. They made fake copies of my paintings and were here to shatter my good name. Yes, 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 their kill scene was born. Dipping back 25 years to that fateful, long-remembered evening of March 11th, 1958. When my girlfriend, Nadine, met me for a drink at Ernie and Julie's club in San Francisco above the Hungry Eye, the night of remembrance, Sue Stanley, Enrico Banducci's girlfriend, was sitting, I believe it's going to say, was sitting alone at the other end of the bar. I invited Sue to join Nadine and me for a drink, and just as Enrico arrived and heard my voice as he entered the bar, enraged, ranting, raving, Enrico Banducci stormed over to me shouting, "You bastard, trying to pick up my woman, huh?" With that, this large, powerful, screaming Italian, charging like a stallion, swung his fist toward me. I ducked. The blow crashed into Nadine's face and sent her tumbling to the floor flat on her back, unconscious. Headline news from coast to coast: artist beats up girl in bar. Artist Walter Keane and his wide-eyed waifs had achieved fame overnight, and with it came whispers in public places, often pointing at me. He's the artist who beats up women and probably hit his children as well. There was no glory or satisfaction in my acquittal. The wild story followed me around for years. All old news. All old news. Many recalls, but needs updating, and update it they did. In 1983, exactly 25 years later, in the San Francisco Chronicle, the famous Herb Keane wrote, around the bus stop they were telling tales of the late Coke Infante and John Clark remembered the time artist Walter Keane got so sore at Coke that he paid $500 to Lucky Lucchesi, Enrico's bouncer, to break Coke's arm. Lucky went to Coke and asked him if he'd wear his arm in a sling for 2 weeks for $250 a deal. Another blow to my honor, my sanity, my family, and my good name. I penned a letter to the publisher. My attorney wrote Herb Keane. What do you got, bruv? It never happened. Immediately, I telephoned Carolyn Infante, a dear friend, Coke's widow. Oh, Carolyn, it's not true. It never happened. Carolyn warmly replied, Walter, my family know you and Coke, and I were good friends, and we too know it never happened. I asked her if she knew how the story got planted. Her response was as mine. Enrico got his name in the paper. A press plug for him helps his little coffee house. 30 long days later, Herb Keane retracted, but again spelled out the shameful scene that never happened. Retractable tale. The trouble with legends is that sometimes they turn out to be myths. Take the story I ran shortly after the death of the North Beach figure Coke Infante. It alleged that artist Walter Big Eyes Keane paid Lucky Lucchesi $500 to break Cole's arm. Whereupon Lucky asked Coke if he'd mind wearing his arm in a sling for 2 weeks for $250, a deal. Around North Beach, this is told as gospel, but Keane says it never happened. Apologies, Walter, but I hate to see such a good story go down the tube. What do you got, breadcrumbs? So updating they did. With this trumped up recital accusing me, they had sown the seed for their kill scene. I subpoenaed the sheriff's records. Reply was never happened. Here I was alone and unprotected in what seemed to be the most foreign land I have ever visited. I'm told it is now the 49th state called Hawaii. How different these islands were 40 years ago, a time when mankind protected one another. Today it appears to be a land where a howl, I don't know how to say that word, haole is looked down on, is unsafe, and a fair trial is but a fantasy. What's up, Tai? Alone with only the comfort and knowledge of my righteousness, I stepped into the circus arena at 9 a.m. The jury box appeared to be filled with unhumane bodies without souls, unable to look up at me, as though ashamed of their decision. The ringmaster entered the room as if he were from another place. With the soul of an assassin, he recited the words I could not believe. Time stopped. The silence burned and humiliated me as if he were taking my soul. I could not speak. I could not see. The jury awarded a $4 million judgment against me for slander. The words I heard could not be true. A red alert sounded. Red alert, red alert. The light blinded me. I put my head down to avoid the ferocious wattage that came from the ringmaster's lips. His words filled the room with a gush of same that could make your ears bleed. I stared with a face of stone. If only I could fall through the floor as his dead words rolled on. I wanted to shout at the scriptwriter. His words were all wrong. My mind started flashing. Where was freedom, fairness, and justice for all in this flood of untrue findings? I prided myself as a man of boundless energy, talent, and broad intellect. After the ringmaster's recital, it was as if I had been kidnapped and robbed of the little remaining life in me. All was gone. My lungs were struggling for more oxygen. My mind played the past in fast forward. People, events, lives, all the lonely lost children I had painted, all the work I had prided myself in, my self-appointed role as advocate of the lost children. Everything was drowning in a sea of dishonesty and disrespect. Section 6. Silently I screamed. I wouldn't be safe if I were dead. Grandmother, where are you? What now? Her soft voice elevated me. Walter, remember your roots. Just because it rains, you do not have to drown. And remember, my little Walter, there are no bigger crooks than religious crooks. They are the kings, history tells us. What's this have to do with religion? Oh, because she's in the whatchamacallit? Jehovah's. As early as the 4th century, the church too succumbed to luxury and corruption and became a parasite on society. I was engulfed with an overwhelming pain. I suddenly felt old, far too tired and weary to return to the living. My mind flashed to Martin Luther, the Reformation, and his protestation of the Catholic teachings. The Pope wanted Martin Luther to come a distance of 200 miles so as to have a meeting with his council. Luther replied that he would require a guaranteed safe passage coming and going. The Pope granted safe traveling for 40 days. I felt like Martin Luther traveling to confront the Pope in this unfriendly and hazardous land. I wished I could petition the court to guarantee me safe passage coming and going as Martin Luther had done. Luther returned to his home. Through propaganda, things were forced upon him. His own followers faked a kidnapping for his self-protection. Luther lived undercover in disguise in or is it Vertberg? Vortberg. The propaganda showered on me has been of a stifling discord. I have no followers to stage a fake kidnapping for my self protection so I could live under cover and disguise. Some days I felt nearly voiceless and depleted of strength, as though the little remaining life in me was slowly ebbing away. I am using up much of my life. I felt street smart, college educated, and have traveled the world painting the lost, neglected, often abused children on the streets and alleys of every country. So others, grandmother emphasized each person's uniqueness to me and helped me to realize it was so often. So often, grandmother emphasized each person's uniqueness to me and helped me to realize that I will be the only me to ever live upon this earth. She did her best to make certain that any wonders within me wouldn't lie dormant. Her words are still my strength and my solace. Looking at in the mirror, I see my own reflection, words flowing from my lips. If you give the mind what it needs, it will work for you. Never a week passes without one of the plaintiff's fellow disciples appearing at my cottage door. After all this explosion of comedy, tiredness, bordering on despair, my mind is alerted for the need of a weapon, a powerful weapon. Days drifted into weeks. My palette and brushes were dry, shocked as if I was awakened from a sound sleep, a call for revenge, knowing the attack must be mightier than the sword. My pen took command. The truth will be my striking force. Damn them all. Headlines on trial. Under oath, the plaintiff testified no one ever saw her painting one of my paintings. No one. She received two of my paintings as gifts while married to me, and in 1976 she purchased two more of my paintings. During the years I was out of the country and out of sight, fake copies of my paintings began to appear as if flowing out of a photocopy machine. It appears in the United States the copyright law doesn't apply if a religious cult copies your copyrighted work and sells it. My only remaining thoughts about the plaintiff are that she died when she was born. When her heart stops beating, it will be just a formality. In life, she and her cult are making millions of dollars producing and selling fake art to the innocent art buyers. And her last words, I'm laughing all the way to the bank. Only the drug cartel brings in more money than the art cartel. One of my witnesses, Marilyn, testified on a spring morning in 1948 or 49. She was leisurely walking through San Francisco's Washington Square. Seeing me, she stopped to watch while I was painting two Chinese children. As if mesmerized, she scrutinized the other waif paintings leaning against my easel. During a rest break, she passed by again and informed me that her mother and brother were artists and often talked about my paintings. Later in the day, she and a girlfriend joined me for a late lunch. 27 years later, paying her own expenses, Marilyn flew to Honolulu and testified that on several occasions she watched me painting my waif paintings. Justice. Alan M. Dershowitz, a law professor at Harvard, one of America's #1 law schools, said in a recent article, the American legal system is governed more by the rules of the game than the rule of law. The integrity of our legal system will remain in doubt as long as who you know is a more important criterion for picking a lawyer than what you know. Legal influence peddling is the dark side of our judicial moon, and it contributes to the kind of disrespect for our legal system about which stuffy lawyers constantly complain. Dershowitz went on to say, much of the disrespect is justified. Many of our courts operate like an old boy network, where the amount of justice a litigant receives depends on whether he can afford to hire one of the judge's old buddies to represent him. Since the vast majority of judges' buddies are men, old boy network is the appropriate allegation. Since the vast majority... Old boy network is the appropriate appellation, though a small old girl network is beginning to emerge as well. His advice to attorneys, spend your time at bar association meetings and judicial conferences glad handing judges rather than in the library keeping up with the law or out in the field investigating facts. There is a difference between knowing a judge and somehow getting to him. Section 7. My greatest rewards were from Barbara and Joan Marie. They gave me children: Susan Hale Keane, artist extraordinaire; Chantel Marie Keane, a talented student; Sasha Michael Keane, a talented student. We learned very quickly to let each other have some space. I filled my cup with more coffee and crawled back into bed. A quietness surrounded me as I looked through my bedroom door across the living room, viewing the bougainvillea outside, listening to the roaring sea below. My heart was rejoicing as though I had escaped from death. I felt as though my mind were traveling through another dimension. I shouted with joy, "Walter, you are free." You turned around and walked to freedom. Today is the first day of your new life. My mind rambled with stray thoughts. The person you can trust is rare. There are those that will betray you. True friends are not easy to find. I need someone I can trust. In the Soviet Union, the word is don't trust anyone over 40. They're all chameleons. An immigration officer said, in a decade, the American whiteys in California will be outnumbered. In the next 30 years, over 3 billion more people will be on our earth. That will add 100 million more people on the earth each year. My wife Joan's last words to me were like a whisper. Walter, you are on a collision course. Step carefully. When you clean up your act with Miss Chivas Regal Scotch, you can return to the world of the great, the powerful, and the accomplished. What's up, bruv? Do you? Another sip of coffee. My mind traveled forward to a later time. In the lawsuit that followed, United Press International did 2 wire service stories on me only weeks before. Many papers carried the stories. I appeared on several TV shows. I spoke to the students at a school. 5 newspaper reporters were in attendance, resulting in a front page headline story. The San Francisco Chronicle sent writer Antoinette May 500 miles to do a Sunday feature story on me. It appeared in their Sunday magazine section, 4 pages with pictures. This was all brought out at the trial. The penalty of being rich, USA Today got sued, and I was just taken along for the ride. February 5th, 1985. I filed my answer to plaintiff's complaint and counterclaims, copyright infringement, and unfair competition by appropriation of artistic works, and demanded a jury trial. Yeah, I remember, unfortunately. June 28, 1985, plaintiff noticed 15 depositions to be taken during the week of July 23rd, 1985, in the USA Today's headquarters in Washington, D.C. Barbara Kraft was a freelance writer. The 15 people the plaintiff took depositions from knew nothing of the story Barbara did on me, resulting in weeks of wasted time and money. Yeah. Yeah, I remember. July 2nd, 1985, the plaintiff, Margaret McGuire, using my name, Keane, was granted ex parte application to admit 3 San Francisco attorneys to represent her. July 8th, 1985, a statement of readiness on behalf of defendant Walter Keane was filed by my attorney at the time. July 22nd, 1985, defendant Walter Keane's statement of non-opposition to motion for leave to file first amended complaint, EP, pretrial conference. What's up, Robs? There he is, Psyche. February 26, 1986, Robert C. Barnius filed many affidavits. Exhibits A through D of Clara Hieronymus. She was a writer for the Nashville, Tennessee newspaper over the previous 20 years and was still with the paper. Margaret was from Nashville, and Mrs. Hieronymus did a full-page story on her in 1965. Local girl makes good. She quoted Margaret in the article as saying her husband, Walter Keane, was the creator of the large, limp-eyed children. She testified to this on the witness stand. We all were given a full page of the story. When I cross-examined Mrs. Hieronymus, I asked her if she even talked to defendant Walter Keane. We are the Bruce. We are the Bruv. All right, Bruv, you are the Bruv. She replied, no. I asked her why not. She replied, we were only interested in the local girl. She said she had never talked to me or seen me until today while I was cross-examining her. They served a subpoena on me to make certain I would be available at the trial. Judge King issued an order for the plaintiff to advance me traveling expenses, hotel and food costs. In the mail, a $1,000 certified check arrived from the plaintiff. Is that LK or IK? April 14th, 1986, Mr. Robert Bernius, chief attorney for USA Today, filed with the court an order for bifurcation of the trial. You don't know? Nobody knows, buddy. The court granted his request. I didn't even know what the big word meant at the time. I quickly discovered it meant my cross-complaint of copyright infringement and unfair competition would now be heard at a later date. Another trial! I was sure that my attorney had done his homework and would win. Trial time was approaching. Our communication stopped. I was shocked to learn that my attorney had resigned from the California State Bar Association and was sent to jail. See ya, bruv. 3 times I requested of the United States District Court and Judge King an extension. A new attorney would need time to study the case. 3 times Judge King refused the extension of time. Attorney Barry Marr filed a written request with the court and spoke personally with Judge King, requesting an extension. If granted, Barry Marr would handle my case. Again, Judge King refused an extension. Untrained in law and court procedure, I, Walter Keane, defended myself. I explained to the jury, one, not of my peers, that only a fool would stand up before them. I respectfully asked that they excused any mistaken legal procedure. One of them smiled. Not knowing courtroom tactics, I blundered twice. But most important to the trial, I was denied the right to get many important documents into evidence. Documents such as the signed letter of the 3 members of the Runswick family, verifying they were told by the gallery attendant in the Maui Art Gallery that Walter Keane is dead. Also, there was a letter from the manager of the same art gallery as well as the Redwood City Sheriff's written report, all denied in evidence. The sheriff's report would have impeached many of the plaintiff's witnesses and subjected them to perjury charges. Nearly 20 other documents were denied in evidence in this 4-week-long trial. What's up, buddy? Barry Manilow. The jury was seriously misled. After reading Judge King's instructions to the jury, a judge friend of mine cited 4 crucial errors in Judge King's instructions to the jury. I was allowed only 7 hours to defend my case in court after listening to weeks of wild charades. I was given 10 days to reply to the judgment. On June 12th, isn't it today? No, this is August 12th, 1986, I covered 4 motions in response to the verdict. 2 related to errors Judge King made in instructing the jury. I filed a declaration of Walter Keane in support of motion for judgment notwithstanding verdict. Or alternatively, for a new trial, or remitter, a proposal. Order granting new trial on behalf of defendant Walter Keane. Shortly afterward, Judge King amended the court decision. In hope of a reversal, the case went to the United States Appellate Court's Ninth District in San Francisco, California. 3 years and a few attorneys later, a letter arrived in the mail addressed to Walter Keane. On January 18, 1989, the United States Appellate Court in the Ninth District of San Francisco, with three judges, canceled the $4 million judgment. They ruled the award was so grossly excessive that it shocks the conscience. We therefore vacate the damage award. I read it aloud so my ears could hear as well as my eyes did the good news that brought a smile to my face. My new awakening, away from the drinking world of exciting, sexy, beautiful women, parties, friends, and art buyers. Startled, I found myself in a world empty of people, a world that wasn't mine, a dark, lonely road ahead. A friend, another former drunk, had gone through several hospital programs over the years. She made available to me her hospital recovery program material, used in California and throughout the country. I read, studied, and wrote my thoughts on drinking. Then to myself in front of the bathroom mirror, I recited my writings as though the whole world was listening to me. The body is a wonderful machine. I learned to recondition it slowly, realizing I had to get drunk on something else. I enrolled in the university to study writing a novel. I bought a guitar. My mind and time were soon consumed. William Saroyan said, "Good people are good because they come to wisdom through failure." I fully understand. One day a friend called to ask how much a Paul Blaine Henry painting was worth. I replied, "Call an art gallery in Laguna Beach where he lives. Someone there will know his market value." My friend thanked me for the information and proceeded to ask how I was. "Fine," I answered. "I gave up drinking and I'm getting on." She then mentioned that she was a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. I responded immediately, "My God, you wear one of those white robes and hoods?" She laughed, replying, "No, of course not. That's the Ku Klux Klan. Ha ha ha. We just wear our ordinary clothes and no hoods or masks." I queried, "Do you meet in fields or old barns?" "Mostly in churches," she answered. "You must be crazy. A bunch of sloppy drunks milling about in a church. What a sight that must be." "Come and take a look for yourself," she invited. "My husband and I are going tonight." Summoning all my courage, I did tag along with my friend to the AA meeting. The AA gatherings that I later attended were most constructive and helpful. I attended the awareness hour at the university. I heard speakers such as Betty Ford and Dr. Johnson and viewed a film called Our Brother's Keeper, which impressed me. Several Wednesdays I attended a meeting at Scripps Hospital. Here the Johnson program was used. Dr. Johnson wrote a helpful book titled I'll Quit Tomorrow. For the one in a dozen of us who becomes a drunk, there is help when you are ready for it. The only prerequisite is that you must want to stop. 19 days without booze, I felt like an informer. Rejoicing, though pain was rushing through my body. I was going through what they call withdrawal. I telephoned to inform my children that I'd really stopped drinking. Sasha, my son, rejoiced, and in his loving voice said, "That's wonderful, Daddy." In life, we all need a hero to give us power and strength. I have no doubt my strength came from my grandmother. She and I could hold the conversation through eye contact alone. Or we might have a little chat that would go on for hours. Once, when we were talking, I asked my grandmother if she was poor. "My little Walter," she replied, "I am rich. I have your love, my family, my talents in music, painting, and writing. These are the real treasures in life. These are the things that make us wealthy." Of all my relationships through the years, the most fulfilling was that with my grandmother. In retrospect, I adhered to her teachings as best I could. Material wealth was never an end in itself for me. I earned money with one hand and spent it with two. What I actually pursued had been the driving force of my life. That goal, which transcended earthly things, was to portray the lost children of the world. When my masterwork depiction, Tomorrow Forever, was completed, my mind stopped dancing and confusion set in. My life's thrust had to change, but which way was it to go? At that point, I found no new direction. I became alienated from a world to which I may never have really belonged. Traipsing all over the globe, I looked for a dream to replace my search for the lost children. Nothing ever came close to having such importance to me personally. Further, I saw that the wars had not ceased, that the orphans were everywhere, and in greater numbers than before. There were times I felt like a shepherd and they were my flock. To what avail had my life's work been? My paintings had not conquered man's need or desire to fight, nor had they given the orphaned waifs of the world a place to live. Through the choice of our political leaders, when one country chooses to drop bombs on the cities of another, children by the hundreds, often thousands, are trapped under the collapsed buildings. The few survivors can bear the children crying beneath the rubble. A shouting parent is heard, "Get them out!" The rescue workers, with inadequate equipment and no electrical current to remove the crumbled buildings, find they can only work during the daylight hours. The rescued children are few. The days pass into weeks. Soon the crying voices are silent. They are all dead. On October 26, 1984, I was shocked when I read where the United States Secretary of State said after the bombing of Beirut Airport, the United States must be willing to retaliate against terrorists with military force, even though it may not be entirely sure of the target, and even though such a retaliation could result in the loss of life of innocent people. The danger exercised in this program is carelessly not knowing your target. Just kill and kill. This careless thinking among leaders, as expressed by our Secretary of State, will leave other lost children in the world that will never see their parents again. The few scattered surviving children, while they are growing up, will hate us and our flying machines. We will be their evil monsters. We will have created a new generation of terrorists. These children will not have $1 billion a day war machine. All they will have is hate. Hate, hate, hate. In World War II, Russia was annihilated. Millions of Russian soldiers were killed and maimed by the surprise attack of the German army. Thousands of surviving Russian women were beaten, raped, and killed by the invading German army. The children wandered aimlessly in a world of total destruction in search of their parents, food, and shelter. Russia wasn't annihilated. What's he fucking talking about? They won. I mean, they destroyed parts of Russia, but it wasn't annihilated. The division, separation, and partition of Berlin was like the cutting up a pie. It was intended for protection and was agreed upon by the four leading powers: France, England, the United States, and Russia. Word reached me regarding the partitioning of Berlin. The Russians, exercising their right to do so, built a solid structure that enclosed and divided East Berlin from the West. It soon came to be known as the Berlin Wall. Then I came and painted an oil painting of the Berlin Wall. There it is. And as a unique historical allusion to our time, the painting, the Berlin Wall, shows the inexorable stone wall with its wires, with the sharp barbs and behind them, the heads of children who contemplate not the other Berlin, but us, our injustice, our cruelty, which has been able to divide the children and separate them with a wall of hate. This painting was exhibited in many museums from Tokyo to Madrid. Some years later, it was acquired by the Santa Clara Museum of Art. Section 8. I am not a prophet of disaster, but an artist with an alert mind and both eyes wide open. One day, the non-whites will pull themselves together politically, seize power, and run the show. People power. People power, they will be the law. The Roman Empire had its downfall along with suffering a great decline in, and there's the painting one last time, commerce and agriculture. In today's world, we see the once great United Kingdom is in many ways on the skids. Sadly, we too are on the skids. Today, there are too many hands for too little work. A mechanical way of life has supplanted the small town intimacy of my days with grandmother. The beautiful little village I loved has shot up into the sky. The dime store is gone. As a child on Saturdays, I patronized Woolworths. They had a dazzling array of objects, boxes of crayons for a dime, Cracker Jacks for a nickel. It was fun just to look around. Grandmother sewed on a Singer sewing machine with a foot pedal. In Europe, I purchased an electric Bernina sewing machine for my wife, Joan Marie. She only had to move a switch for 17 different kinds of stitches. You are back, buddy. At grandmother's house, pot was a pan used for cooking, or pot was the toilet. Fix was a verb meaning mend or repair. Hooked was how grandmother's rug was made. My radio was a crystal set with earphones. Words that were not yet born: television, word processors, credit cards, frozen food, and disposable diapers. Bunnies were small rabbits, and rabbits were not Volkswagens. Rock was a stone. Roll was a bun. Today, our children are showered in the stores with hideous junk, be it in food or plastic dolls. Our homes are filled with zombies watching television. It has been reported children see 5,000 hours of TV before entering kindergarten. They see people killed, mugged, and raped. 2 decades traveling the world, painting the lost children through another eye, I viewed the mad scramblers, the smarts wrapping the world for what was best, be it ice cream, an automobile, or a magic machine. If the best was made in Sweden or China or Japan or in the United States, France, Italy, or in Germany, their undercover agents found it, and we mortgaged our lives to own it. Looking through my spyglass, I see 23 billionaires in Japan. In this little faraway island of paradise, it was reported, a painting was purchased of a once poor starving artist, now dead, Vincent van Gogh, for 41 million US dollars. In 1961, my painting Our Children was acquired by the United Nations in New York City. In the same year, a painting of mine, Peace on Earth with 9 Children of the World, was acquired by the National Museum of Western Art in Tokyo, Japan. In the 25 years to follow, Japan has built more than 200 new museums, and the Japanese are buying 25% of the major art being sold. Astonishingly, 23 different Japanese bank branches lie in sunny California, while only 9 different California banks exist. I'm told world illiteracy is the lowest in Japan and Russia. Their children go to school 6 days a week with only 3 weeks summer holiday. The United States doesn't even rank in the top 10. I am lost. Where do I belong? I find myself in a world that isn't mine. The creative, the famous, the rich, exciting, sexy life is passing by. Now that my youth and money are gone, no woman is devoted to me. I miss the physical pleasures and love. Today I'm single and live alone. My mind wanders. Am I dreaming? While running on the beach one evening, viewing a falling star, I swiftly opened my arms, catching it. Startled, in moments, the star blossomed into a beautiful woman. For a moment I was most frightened. It seemed uncanny that she should appear so silently. Her hair was loose as if she had been in wind, but there was no wind. The moon lit her face. Soon we had locked eyes. In a soft voice, quietly speaking, "Walter, may I be your friend and run on the beach with you?" As we were running, I felt some kind of hold on me. Her right hand held mine. Startled like an earthquake, my alarm clock was ringing. "Damn you, clock!" I called out. "Dream on, Walter, dream on." In my newly found writer's world, you are alone at work with your pen, more alone than painting on the streets and alleyways, portraying the lost children with my brush. Today, my days are filled with the clinking of my typewriter keys. Until this moment, I never looked upon myself as pro anything. Now I know I am not pro Sweden, pro Ireland, pro French, or pro American. I'm a pro planet man. Another call, so all will hear. Let's all be friends and keep our planet, if not for our selfish selves, then for our children. For now, step carefully at night. The streets are becoming wild and crazy. Wild and crazy. I want to quietly whisper to each parent, There are wonders in your children. Take time to help bring them out, or in time they will lie dormant. Like a runaway, I needed a change of scenery. Up, up, and away for a month in Paris. The days quickly passed wandering and gadding about. Montmartre hadn't changed. Tourists traipsing about, artists with their brushes. I changed. I ordered a Perrier at the sidewalk cafes as my friends were sipping wine. A French writer interviewed me. I responded, "Today I see children ousted from homes at an early age and become sexual rebels." The writer concluded the story saying the conception of the large, sad eyes was introduced to the world by Keane, a famous, tall, slender, talented artist. Always in casual dress, a turtleneck, cashmere sweater with a pullover sweater on top, and baggy, unpressed trousers. Never a strand of his silver blonde hair in place, framing his clear blue eyes. Keane seems to have bounced back into the world without too many scars. Several friends were waving as I boarded my return flight for California. Once again, my grandmother's spirit picked me up. It filled the void space in my heart and renewed my need to be proud. On that fateful rainy night in La Jolla, her strength and wisdom penetrated the boozy mist that had enveloped my being. Her omnipresence, combined with the support of an old friend, led me to the realization that continues to permeate my life. I can't change the whole world. I can change my world. In my sobriety, I learned nothing more profits the soul than to make a soul less sad. Max Oakley, an old drinking friend, while sipping coffee at the Panikin Coffee House, uttered sadly, "It's a hellish thing, this getting old. I find myself surrendering to the time, circumstances, and conditions of age. I, who might have been a brave man 10 years ago, may be a coward today, for reasons of age, physical deterioration, and financial limitations." I responded softly, "My friend, you've braved a circumstance, an area most of us will move into one day. But it's all tolerable somehow in my newly rediscovered world, my hidden dreams being fresh renewal. Isn't it time we believe again? I celebrate the clearing of the dark bolt in my life when never did I weep and never did I laugh. Today my mind is like a parachute. It works only when it's open. Now how I hear again, I see again, I feel again, I touch again. Now I love the rain, the breeze, and the calm. At close of day, I sing again, strolling one step at a time along my path at the water's edge. As the sunset colors flashed in my eyes, came a whisper, "Walter, the sunrise and the sunset are real. You can trust us." My children's chosen moments, they in me reclaim. My children's chosen moments, they in me reclaim. What the fuck is that, Walter? My vision is now clear after walking blindly in this expanding world. A re-entrance into life is opening for me. Today I am glad I am who I am. Wherever I go, I'm told, or I read where most of the people still admire my talent and love my paintings. I smiled when I read, "The one thing worse than dying is outliving your money." What I thought was the end of the road was a bend in the road. The end. Epilogue. How many more fucking pages? Epilogue. On October 23rd, 1990, in another California newspaper, a story appeared about the late Walter Keane, saying that Walter Keane was dead. I politely informed them I am still alive. On December 6, 1991, the writer made amends. I had been out of the country many times over 17 years and was totally gone for 8 years. When I returned to the United States, I was startled at the fake copies being sold of my paintings and prints of the paintings I painted and copyrighted. I even had a woman go into the Corey Gallery on Gary Street in San Francisco and buy a fake copy of my painting, Grant Avenue, San Francisco, of which Madame Chiang Kai-shek owned the original. As the years of success and money flowed my way, I became a playboy and a drinker. Unknown to me, Seymour Ellison must have had a few. Problem 1 arrived when Seymour Ellison failed to file certain papers with the court. to charge the opposition with copyright infringement, and his failure to file those papers moved the opposition to have the case dismissed. Unknown to me, I was never told. I was again out of the country, and upon my return, USA Today contacted me and wrote a half-page story on me and my life. I was asked about the copyright infringement and case, and I said, as far as I know, it's still pending. USA Today and I were sued for $17 million for slander against me and libel against USA Today. Seymour Ellison filed a cross complaint for copyright infringement. USA Today filed for bifurcation of the trial. 3 weeks before the trial, Seymour Ellison was in jail in San Francisco for using two clients' money entrusted with him, and he either was disbarred or withdrew from the bar. The presiding judge was Judge King. He refused to grant me an extension of time to get another attorney, so I had to try the case on my own. A nightmare. $4 million was awarded by the jury against me for slander. During the 27-day trial, I lived on coffee and adrenaline. I had lost 12 pounds during the trial. The stress seemed to age me overnight. The case was appealed to the United States Court of Appeal for the Ninth District in San Francisco. My attorney, Michael Songin, was paid 40% of his fee up front. Months passed getting all the court records with all costs paid by me. Unknown to me at the time, Michael Sorgan forged my name to some papers filed with the appellate court saying I was now broke and had no more money, and asking the court to pay his fee or allow him to withdraw from my representation. The court dismissed him. I now had no attorney. Years later, a federal judge in San Diego, after the opposition used this in the trial, said the FBI should investigate Sorgan. Judge Rhodes stated it was not my signature. Only days after the $4 million judgment, out of the blue, as if coming from heaven, a man came to my table in a little outdoor coffee house in La Jolla, California, and asked if he could sit at my table. I said, if you don't smoke. I was reading the paper. He spoke, saying his name was Herbert Neerman, and he was a bankruptcy attorney from Newport Beach, California, 70 miles north of La Jolla. He had read about my trial and the damn judgment and said I should file bankruptcy, telling me about all kinds of advantages. And he added he would represent me free of charge, no cost to me. So what does an exhausted, nearly broke, divorced, older man living alone do? Just smile and say thank you. Turns out he may have been a plant. The bankruptcy went on as the appeal lasted 3 years. Finally, one day, Mr. Neiman asked me to give him some facts that I had already given him. I took a yellow legal pad and scribbled down some questions and answers, scratching out some of it and rewriting it on other pages. Well, Mr. Free Attorney Neerman gave my scribbled notes to the opposition, and the opposition submitted them to Judge Hargrove in the bankruptcy court. In a shouting voice at me, he said, Mr. Keane, this is the biggest insult I have ever seen in all my years on the bench. You know this should be typed up, and you have to sign under penalty of perjury on the end of it, and I find you in contempt of court. Bullshit. The case went to Judge Rhodes to prosecute me for contempt of court. The court hearings, now in two courts, were like another circus. My attorney, Mr. Neiman, didn't appear. Judge Rhodes sent him a letter demanding he appear and explained to the court why he did not appear. He then appeared and apologized and alerted and asked to be released from representing me. So granted, now no attorney. The United States Appellate Court canceled the $4 million judgment against me, so I immediately filed to dismiss the bankruptcy case, which, if dismissed, would dismiss the contempt of court charge for which they could put me in jail. Here again, the opposition demanded that the bankruptcy case not be dismissed. I showed the court they now had no claim against me, and they said they may sue me again for slander. Another goddess from heaven appeared the third day after the big award against me. Janice Adams from Moraga, California. She contacted John May, my college friend, and first mayor of Danville, and told John she had loved me since she was a little girl and wanted to help me. She would put up the money for the appeal and would share her country home in Morega, Mercedes, etc. with me. I drove north 500 miles to see her. She showered me with sex and said, "Walter, you can stop all expenses and you can store all your belongings with me and live with me." I had my new greeting card business, 2 original oil paintings, etc. I only had 10 days to answer the court decision. Janice Adams drove back to La Jolla with me, staying in my rented cottage. Within 20 days, Janice had all my assets in her home at Morega and had me out of her life. In the application to file bankruptcy, I disclosed in 2 places that all my assets were stored at Janice Adams's home in Morega. Judge Hargrove gives about 5 minutes to each case in his courtroom, and I'm sure he never read my application that was in front of him. The opposition stood up and screamed loudly that I had hidden $500,000 worth of assets. The judge was angry. I stood up, waving my left hand, and asked that I be allowed to speak. Judge Hargrove said, "Mr. Keane, you have an attorney." I said, "He will not speak in court. Please allow me to explain." "Sit down, Mr. Keane." I sat down. Wayne Newton, Mr. Las Vegas, came to my rescue. Judge Rhodes was going to put me in jail for contempt of court. Wayne was doing a show in North Dakota on Sunday night. After the show, his pilots, crew, and bodyguards flew in his private plane to San Diego. Wayne appeared in Judge Rhodes' court and spoke as though being coached by Ben Butler. Wayne was great. He spoke as if it was his profession to speak in court, covering 4.5 pages in the transcript. The same day, Monday, Wayne flew back to South Dakota where he did a show that night. That's what's called a friend. Plus, after some months, the opposition agreed to a final settlement and the bankruptcy case was dismissed, thereby canceling the contempt of court charges. Mark Marino, Wayne Newton's attorney, sent me 2.5 pages to sign. I told Mr. Marino I could not sign it because about all it said was I would not sue the opposition anymore. It would have been giving them a license to continue making $1 million a week selling fake art. Mr. Marino said if I didn't sign it, he would quit. So on the 28th of May 1991, I signed it. That's it. Linda's Gifts, Carlsbad, California. That was a weird ending. All right, that's all, bruvs. You had your chance to be part of greatness, and you lost.